Hey everybody, hope you're doing well. Yep, it's Alan here. Let's see, there we go. Trying to get the good angle on the sun here so I'm not too much in the... There we go. Alright. So it's Alan here, starting another Friday and another session of Backyard Analytics. I was hoping to be able to tweet this out, but for some reason Periscope is being a nuisance and it's not letting me tweet out. So I'm glad a couple of people have followed me over here. Welcome. I can't see who it is. You can say hi. I'll try and read the screen. It's hard in the sun with wearing, I'm of that age. I need reading glasses or bifocals as I have. So it's kind of hard to read whose names are popping up. But thanks for coming by. We're going to talk about data sampling here on this week's session of Backyard Analytics. And, this came about, I mentioned it last week that I was going to do it this week. But there's my grass. And I'm going to use green grass is a concept for data sampling. Don't need to focus on that too much more. So when we're talking about data sampling, what got me going is I've been having some weed issues. Nothing significant, but the clover's taking over. And I was starting to wonder, what is considered healthy grass? I keep talking about have nice, thick grass, lots of blades of grass. So what's a healthy example? And how do you actually go and determine if I have put down enough grass seed? And all those lovely things. So I was trying to think of a great example to explain data sampling. And when it comes to analytics, data sampling is a great tool for us all. Why? Because we don't always get 100% information. That was the promise of web analytics back 20 years ago when I first started doing web analytics with things like AW Stats, Web Trends version 1. Web Log Analyzer 1.0. We're saying, the server's capturing everything. But the reality is, a lot of times now we don't capture everything. We're using beacon tracking, and not everybody allows the beacons to be captured, or cookies are not being accepted. We only get a data sampling. And for years, I used an example of a political poll. There were some polls out today about the U.S. presidential election, how poorly Hillary Clinton is doing, and so forth. And you got to look at the number of people they actually interview for thing things, and it's a small percentage. We'll do a presidential election. Where the Republicans go head-to-head with the Democrats, and they'll interview less than 2,000 people out of 150 or so million eligible voters, and they will predict the election pretty much down by state, and it's amazing how accurate they can be. So I'm going to use a different analogy, so I have some cheat notes. I must admit, cheat notes, just so I get the numbers right. So when I was looking at, I couldn't find a website that talks about in where I live, which is north of Toronto, the types of grass that I grow, blah, 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 blah. So I couldn't find it. But there was a great example of explaining how to calculate it. And I'm going to get that example here. So we're going to start with asking the question. Anybody know how many blades of grass on an American football field? Now, why I use American? I'm in Canada. We have the Canadian football, and our fields are slightly bigger. A little bit wider and a little bit longer, an extra 10 yards. Our center field's the 55-yard line, not the 50-yard line. So I decided to look that up. That was a great question I had stumbled across. So how do you do that? So if you look at an American football field, it's 50 yards by 100 yards. So that gives you 5,000 square yards. That's a nice simple analogy, or number. But let's convert that to feet. Because why? We're not going to want to do a sample of a square yard. So we take that down. That's 45,000 square feet. Now, to do a data sample, you'd want to take out a ruler, a tape measure, and mark off with string. You put little pegs in. And this is what I was prepared to do for my lawn to see how healthy, if that's why I'm getting all this clover growing. I just did not put enough grass seed down or what else I can do. And you mark off a square foot. And you think, wow. Now you start counting. How big is a square foot? Now, this was an interesting thing because I was looking this up. And they give an example that they would typically, on a typical football field, now it varies by types of grass and whether it's in the northern U.S. or the southern U.S., because that's which grasses grow. But typically, you should find in a square foot about 500 blades of grass. Now, you want to be more accurate, you'd want to do data, you might want to go to the center field versus... We're not including end zones, to the first yard line, various spots. Maybe you want to do a sample of 3 square yards, 3 square feet in 3 different locations, and then average those out too. But now you have 500 blades of grass in a square foot. Now, you now want to multiply that 500 by 45,000. Wow. I'm leaving you to go get your calculators out and figure out that. Tell me how many blades of grass there are. I wish I had a prize for the first person to tweet me with their answer. But that's part of the blades of grass. And that's what data sampling is. Of course, I might go to my local garden center and ask them, because that'll tell me to deal with my problem. Should I go get more grass seed, put more grass seed down, or do I need to just switch fertilizer? Maybe I have enough grass, but it's not healthy enough grass. I got all sorts of things. I shouldn't cut my grass too short. I shouldn't cut it too tall. All these things to, thwart out the weeds. I know this week I cut my grass fairly short, and it seemed to actually take care of a lot of the clover came out. Now, of course, my grass isn't looking as healthy as it was when I had it about half an inch taller as typical. So that's the story. You want to go figure out if you got a healthy lawn, go count your blades of grass. Go count the blades of grass at your neighbor where you really think they have a really nice green lawn. And then you'll know, do you need to put some more grass seed down? But that's data sampling. And it's applicable to analytics because we don't always get a full data set. We might only be able to capture 6 in 10 or 3 out of 5 people. Think about that. That's a 60% data sample. When pollsters are doing it, or in this case of a football field, you're doing 1 in 45,000, and it's considered good enough to determine the health of your field. Farmers use this for crop yields. They go and they count the number of ears of corn that are growing in a square foot and extrapolate that to acres, and they know how many kernels on a typical ear of corn and all those fun things. And they can project crops and understand if they're going to be a good year or not a good year. And that's data sampling. And this is Backyard Analytics. So on that note, here's a quick look back at my reasonably healthy grass, just a couple patches of clover that cutting did well. And as far as I can tell, I think I have good healthy grass. I didn't get down on my knees yet and count blades, because that would just take me forever. Maybe I should just do a 3 inches by 3 inches in 2 spots and extrapolate it. I don't know. But that's data sampling and understanding that from an analytics perspective. We're going to get a sample of our audience, and from that we need to extrapolate the data and make our projections and our analysis based on that. So on that note, it's a Friday afternoon here, just north of Toronto, Canada, Ontario, Canada. So everyone have a great weekend. Feel free to tweet me questions, comments, feedback at the @ AKNECHT. And I love reading your feedback, and thanks to all those who gave me feedback. And once again, I had a problem on Periscope tweeting up that I was live, so I wish we would add a few more people here. But so goes technology. Have a great afternoon, everybody, and a great weekend.